Hey, what's up, fellow anglers? It's Aaron LeSieur here. Hey, I'm bringing you another fishing report for Folsom Lake. Last weekend, my brother and I fished the Bass Pro Shops Open. So we got 3 days of fishing out there. Practiced on Thursday, fished the tournament Friday and Saturday. We didn't make the top 10, but we did come in 15th. We were close, just one good bite or a couple bites away from making that top 10. So let's talk about the conditions out there. Folsom Lake is up since the last time I gave you guys a fishing report. That was about a month ago. Lake levels are up 7 feet since then, so the lake's looking a little bit different. Water clarity out there, 8 to 15 feet, depending on which part of the lake you're in. And the wind wasn't a huge factor over the weekend. It blew a little bit off and on, a little bit in the morning, then it would get flat, and then it would come back in the afternoon. It was probably no more than 5 miles per hour. And then man, it got hot. The first day was pretty nice, but as the weekend went on, we were seeing 90s. And so by the end of the day, man, we were just smoldering out there. I do need to quickly mention that there is still a ton of floating debris out there on the lake, so be careful. It's still clogging up the launch ramps. The Parks Department is trying to clean it up. Out there at Granite Bay, you can see it. They've got it all piled up. They've got tractors out there putting it in big trash bins. So just make sure you're keeping your head up and keep your speed under control so you don't hit anything out there and lose a lower end or bend up a prop. So let's talk about what the fish are doing out there and how we caught our fish during the tournament. Some of the fish are still moving up to spawn. Surprisingly enough, you can go around the lake, get the trolling motor on high. You're going to have to cover a lot of water, but you can find some largemouth spawning in the coves and on the main lake. There's not a whole lot of them left, but there were some in the tournament. We caught one each day and saw a few others here and there that were trying to come up, but were too spooky to catch. I should mention our practice sucked. On Thursday, we split up the lake into various areas. We had 2 boats out there, and my brother and I both caught 1 fish each throughout the entire day. So we basically junk fished during the tournament. We caught the majority of our fish deep, post spawners out there, mainly spotted bass and smallmouth, and focusing in that 10 to 30 foot range. We were looking for rock piles or any ledges in areas that were close to spawning areas or spawning flats. So the majority of our fish came off the dam there at Beals. We got bit there in practice, and it ended up being our starting spot both mornings because that's really the only place that I got bit in practice. It worked out for us on the first day. We were taking drop shots with little Kitex, also 4.5 inch or 5 inch robo worms and a shad pattern, and getting up in the shallow part of the dam and throwing out deep into 30 feet and catching good spotted bass that way. They were actually eating it on the fall, and then you actually had to hop it up and down back to the boat, number one, so you wouldn't get hung up in all those rocks out there. I think we went through like 20 drop shot weights out there because once it got hung up, it was pretty tough to get those things out. Those big jagged rocks eat up every drop shot weight possible when it gets stuck in there. So we would hop it back to the boat, trying to get a reaction strike or let that bait flutter down. The first day we had a limit by, I think, 8 o'clock, and two fish out there we had that were almost close to 3 pound spotted bass out there. Then we basically just ran around the lake junk fishing. I fished some history spots, just going to places where I thought they would be out deep, mainly in the south arm, and that's where we did catch or look for our spawning fish also. So we ended up weighing 12 pounds that first day. Lucky to have what we did, basically, since our practice was so bad. So day 2, our game plan was the exact same thing. Head out to the dam, try to fill a limit early, and then rotate through our spots. get some upgrades in the afternoon, look for any largemouth that had moved up onto the beds. We ran into a problem. The dam spot in the morning just went cold on us. We didn't get any bites there. We stayed there for an hour and a half, went back and forth through our stretch where we had caught them the previous day, and we couldn't get a single fish in the boat. So we just vacated that area, started to rotate through our spots, and it was really slow. We didn't have our limit till about 1 o'clock. We ended up going out to some rock piles there in Beals to see if there were any fish out deep. And we did end up catching a nice spot around 3 and then filled up a limit with some smallies. And then spent the rest of the day on the trolling motor looking for big fish on beds and never found them. So we ended up weighing 10 pounds that day and just missing the top 10 by, I think, 7 ounces. So on Sunday, I went out and watched the weigh-in. I wanted to get you guys the most current and accurate information on how the top 10 caught their fish. And it was kind of tough to hear at the weigh-in with the way they had the mic set up. So I was only able to hear a few of the guys on how they caught them. And for the most part, they were all doing the same thing. They were out deep, 10 to 30 feet of water, worming, whether it was drop shots or dragon worms or little tiny Kitex. They were all pretty much doing the same thing. Found some areas maybe where the fish were a little better quality or stacked up, except the one team that won. Then on that last day, they sacked them up with 17 pounds, throwing little swim baits and HUDs. They were throwing, they said, skinny dippers and then both sizes of the HUDs, probably 6 and the 8-inch. And they sacked them up. So they just happened to find some areas where those big largemouth were wanting to eat those swim baits, and they were catching theirs fairly shallow. I think they said anywhere from 5 to 10 feet, even though they saw them in 30 feet. The ones out deeper weren't biting. So if I was to go out there again this week, I'd do the same thing. Go out kind of deeper areas looking for some consistent bites. You can get some, decent sized fish off the humps and the rock piles. You just have to find the ones that are schooled up. Go up shallow in that 5 to 15 foot range. Drag some stuff around, whether it's swim baits or drop shots or Senkos, and see if you can get some of those bigger bites of some of those largemouth that are either still trying to come up or that have pulled off after the spawn that are looking to feed up. So let's move on now to rigging and equipment. I'll quickly go over the setups and equipment we use to catch our fish for those 3 days. Okay, let's quickly talk about rigging. I know this video is a little bit on the long side, so I'm going to get through this rather quickly and just show you some of the setups that we used out there at Folsom to catch some of those fish during the tournament. One of the main baits that we used is the drop shot, as you saw in the earlier part of the video. Basically just a regular drop shot setup. This is 15-pound P-line. You can use a couple of different weights out there on the rocks. I found that the more cylinder style weights worked better. They got hung up less. That's a 1/4 ounce, closer to a teardrop, or you can use the little pencil weight one. 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce. The 3/8 ounce tended to get caught less in those rocks. And then this is just a 1/0 basically drop shot hook. It's a Viper hook by Demiki. 20-pound braid backing on here, and then you got a 15-pound fluoro P-line leader. This is on a Dobbins. This happened to be the 683 spinning reel here on the Champion Series. My brother was throwing the 5-inch Robo Worm. This is the hologram shad. I was throwing this little 3.5 swing impact Kitech swim bait. So those are the baits we were using on the dam when we were catching those spotted bass. And then I used the same setup for the bedfish on that drop shot, but I caught all those bedfish. The 2 bedfish that we caught were again on this Demiki Stinger. This is the 5.5 in a green pumpkin with black flake. That's the drop shot setup. I did catch a few fish on a nail-weighted Senko on the dam. You would see that in the video. The first fish I caught was on a Senko. It wasn't on the drop shot. Basically just a 5-inch Senko watermelon. I had another one in perch. And I did stick a nail, it was nail weighted. I'm gonna show you how I nail weighted that here in a second. It's got a wacky saddle on there. That's the Frenzy wacky saddle, Gamakatsu 4/0 round wacky hook with the keeper on there like I like to cut it. So it's got these 2 little tiny wires sticking out. Let me show you real quickly how I set up my nail weighted Senkos. Now you could take a nail weight and just shove it way into the Senko, and then you could burn it like I do with this one. Then you can burn that hole closed on the Senko. if you stick it all the way in. But since it was on the rocks, I wanted it to make a little noise, a little clacking noise. So these things will fall out after a while. So what I do is I get one of these little aiming flames, but the torch one. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that in the video, but it shoots out a huge flame, so it works in the wind too. So if it gets a little windy, or you can hide behind your deck lid, your storage lid on the boat. So basically, I just put that in there, and then I start burning it around until the rubber material starts to go leak down or melt down around that little weight. So what that does then is it helps it stick on there a little bit longer. And so when these get a little bit more waterlogged or whatever, it'll fall out. But now I've got that in there, so it'll stay in there a little bit better. And when it's going on the bottom, it makes a little clacking noise or clicking noise, just something else to draw those fish in. So that's the nail-weighted Senko. I was throwing that on this. This is the Dobyns Fury Series rod. Which one is this? This is the 703 SF. Again, I got 20-pound braid on here to a 15-pound fluoroleader P-line. I got this one on a Lew's, it's a Mach 2. So the other thing we were throwing out there on those deep rock piles was the good old hula grub jig. So this one just happens to be a 1/2 ounce. We were also throwing a 1/4 ounce depending on how deep we were. I got this. This is a watermelon with black flake. This is the Demiki version of it. This is the Hydra Evolution. My brother was just throwing the Yamamoto hula grub. I think they're the 4-inch. And as long as they were green, they were fine. On this one, it's got 15-pound, again, leader, P-line on 20-pound braid. This rod here, I was throwing it on. I love this jig rod. It's a 735C by Dobyns. And then this is just the Abu Garcia reel. I don't know if I got a high-speed one on here. I do. It's a 7-to-1 because I normally have a higher speed reel on my jig setup, because when I'm casting it out there, I'm basically just dragging it. And so I need to be able to reel up that line quickly to get that slack out of there, especially if a fish bites it. So I got a higher speed reel on there. So that's basically it for the setups that we used out there to catch all our fish. We use these setups out there on the dam, out there on the rock piles, and then bed fishing. Hope you guys are liking some of the footage I've been putting in here and some of the video clips throughout the video series. Stay tuned for some more cool stuff coming on the way. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like. Leave a comment, whether it's good or bad. I take all criticism, whether it's constructive or not. So we'll see you next time. Stay focused, fish hard, and I'll see you out on the water.